The meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky was fraught from the start. Even before they sat down at the negotiating table, the air was thick with tension and uncertainty. Trump had publicly questioned Zelensky's leadership, casting doubt on his ability to govern effectively. He accused Zelensky of being a dictator, a charge that was both inflammatory and unfounded. This cast a dark cloud over the upcoming meeting, making it clear that any discussions would be overshadowed by these harsh words. It created an atmosphere of tension and distrust, where every word and gesture would be scrutinized. Trump's rhetoric was not new. He had a history of making bold and often controversial statements about foreign leaders. He had a history of making inflammatory remarks about foreign leaders, often stirring the pot in international relations. This time, however, his words carried added weight. The geopolitical stakes were higher than ever. The fate of Ukraine and perhaps the world hung in the balance, making the outcome of this meeting critically important. Zelensky, for his part, tried to remain optimistic. He knew the importance of maintaining a strong relationship with the U.S. He stressed the importance of the U.S. Ukraine partnership, emphasizing mutual goals and shared values. However, it was clear that Trump's words had stung. Zelensky's expressions often betrayed his concern. The stage was set for a clash of personalities and ideologies, with both leaders standing firm on their positions. The meeting promised to be a diplomatic tightrope walk, where one wrong move could have significant consequences. The stakes were incredibly high and the world was watching closely, waiting to see how this critical encounter would unfold. At the heart of the meeting lay a proposed mineral rights agreement. Ukraine, rich in resources like oil, gas, and rare earth minerals, held a tempting prize. The agreement would grant U.S. companies access to these valuable resources. For Ukraine, the deal offered a lifeline. Years of conflict with Russia had devastated its economy. The agreement promised much-needed investment. It also presented an opportunity to strengthen ties with the United States. However, the agreement was not without its critics. Some argued that it would give the U.S. too much control over Ukrainian resources. Others worried that it would further antagonize Russia. The mineral rights agreement was a double-edged sword. It offered both opportunity and risk. Its success or failure would have far-reaching consequences. The meeting began with a handshake, a facade of cordiality masking the underlying tension. Both leaders knew that the stakes were high, and the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and hidden agendas. The two leaders sat down to discuss the mineral rights agreement, a topic that had been a point of contention for months. The room was filled with advisors and diplomats, each side ready to defend their interests. Zelensky, eager to secure the deal, presented his case with a sense of urgency. He highlighted the benefits for both nations, emphasizing the economic growth that could be achieved. He spoke of the potential for economic growth and a strengthened partnership, painting a picture of mutual prosperity. His words were carefully chosen to appeal to both the American and Ukrainian interests. Trump listened, his expression unreadable. Disagreements arose quickly, as both leaders had different priorities and concerns. The tension in the room was palpable. Zelensky insisted on security guarantees from the U.S. before agreeing to any ceasefire with Russia. He was adamant that Ukraine's safety could not be compromised. He cited past failed negotiations with Putin, reminding everyone of the broken promises and unmet agreements. His voice carried the weight of history and the hopes of his people. He argued that Ukraine needed to be in a strong position before entering into any peace talks. Trump, however, seemed impatient, his focus shifting to the immediate resolution of the conflict. He pushed for a quick resolution to the conflict, seeing it as a necessary step towards securing the mineral rights agreement. His approach was pragmatic, aiming for swift action. He saw the ceasefire as a necessary step towards securing the mineral rights agreement, a deal that promised significant economic benefits for both nations. The meeting began to unravel, with both sides standing firm on their positions. The room, once filled with hope for a resolution, now echoed with the sounds of disagreement and frustration. The tension, simmering beneath the surface, finally boiled over. The room was filled with a palpable sense of unease, as if everyone knew that a storm was about to break. Vice President J.D. Vance, a close confidant of Trump, launched into a tirade. His voice echoed through the room, filled with anger and frustration. He criticized Ukraine's military readiness, questioning their ability to stand against Russian forces. His words were sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. He accused Zelensky of mismanaging U.S. aid, suggesting that the funds were being squandered. The accusations were heavy, laden with implications of incompetence and corruption. Trump, never one to shy away from conflict, joined the fray. His presence only intensified the already charged atmosphere. He accused Zelensky of ingratitude, claiming that the Ukrainian leader had failed to show proper appreciation for the support received. He belittled Ukraine's efforts to defend itself against Russian aggression, suggesting that their attempts were futile and poorly executed. His voice rose in anger, filling the room with a sense of impending conflict. The tension was almost unbearable. Zelensky, caught off guard by the personal attacks, tried to defend himself. His face showed a mix of surprise and determination. He spoke of Ukraine's sacrifices in the face of Russian aggression, highlighting the bravery and resilience of his people. He reminded Trump of the U.S quote, "S commitment to supporting democracy," emphasizing the importance of their alliance. His pleas fell on deaf ears. The room remained silent, the other political figures unmoved by his words. The room crackled with tension, every eye fixed on the unfolding drama. It was a moment of high stakes and high emotions. The cameras, rolling the entire time, captured every word and gesture. The world was watching and the stakes couldn't be higher. The meeting had descended into chaos. Voices overlapped, accusations flew, and the sense of order was completely lost. It was a diplomatic train wreck, a moment that would be remembered for its sheer intensity and the breakdown of decorum. Section 5. A partnership shattered, the abrupt end, and political fallout. The meeting ended as abruptly as it began. Zelensky, angered and humiliated, stormed out. He refused to participate in the planned joint press conference. The mineral rights agreement, once a symbol of hope, lay in tatters. Trump, seemingly unfazed by the diplomatic debacle, took to the podium. He announced the withdrawal of the United States from the negotiations. He accused Zelensky of disrespect and a lack of seriousness. The fallout was immediate. Republicans predictably rallied around Trump. They echoed his accusations against Zelensky. Democrats condemned Trump's behavior, calling it reckless and dangerous. The United States political landscape, already deeply polarized, fractured even further. Section 6. A chorus of condemnation, international reactions and concerns. The international community watched in dismay. European leaders, long wary of Trump's unpredictable nature, expressed their support for Zelensky. They condemned Trump's behavior. Newspapers around the world decried the meeting as a diplomatic disaster. Commentators lamented the damage done to U.S. credibility on the world stage. Russia, meanwhile, reveled in the chaos. The meeting had far-reaching consequences. It strained relations between the U.S. and its European allies. It emboldened Russia. And it left Ukraine, facing an uncertain future, more vulnerable than ever. Section 7. Seeking new allies. Ukraine in the aftermath. In the wake of the disastrous meeting, Ukraine found itself at a crossroads. The U.S., once a staunch ally, had abandoned it. Zelensky knew that Ukraine had to find new partners. He turned to Europe, seeking support and assistance. He strengthened ties with countries like France and Germany. He appealed for increased military aid. He knew that Ukraine could not stand alone against Russia. The international community responded, albeit cautiously. European countries increased their financial and military assistance to Ukraine. However, they stopped short of offering full-fledged military support. Section 8. The global stage implications for international diplomacy. The Trump-Zelensky meeting sent shockwaves through the international system. It exposed the fragility of the rules-based order. It highlighted the dangers of personality-driven diplomacy. The meeting also underscored the growing rift between the U.S. and its European allies. Trump's America First policies had alienated many traditional partners. The U.S., once a beacon of democracy and stability, was now seen as an unreliable and unpredictable actor. The world watched, holding its breath, unsure of what the future held. The meeting had ushered in an era of uncertainty and instability. Section 9, A Legacy of Discord, The Future of U.S. Ukraine Relations. The Trump-Zelensky meeting cast a long shadow over U.S. Ukraine relations. The two countries, once bound by shared values and interests, were now estranged. The Biden administration, which took office in 2024, faced the daunting task of repairing the damage. It pledged to restore U.S. leadership on the world stage. It promised to stand by its allies. However, the road to reconciliation was long and arduous. The trust, so carelessly shattered, would take years to rebuild. The future of U.S.-Ukraine relations remained uncertain.